Good morning. Well, Trav Robertson, good to have you.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Executive Director of the Democrat Party and Representative Osborne.
Hello.
Good to see you. Now, let's start with this Supreme Court's ruling. 5 states gay marriage. We had an amendment. The voters voted on a few years ago. The Supreme Court says no, there can't be a ban. Are we done with this issue? Supremes have spoken. Are we done in Oklahoma? It's the law of the land.
Well, in 2004, the voters of Oklahoma were asked on the ballot, do you want to define marriages between a man and a woman? Overwhelming support. 76% of people in this state said yes. With what the U.S. Supreme Court did this week was overturn that decision in our state and 4 others. Gay marriage is legal in Oklahoma right now. We've seen a rush to the altar. I do think that in about 8 weeks, when we file bills for the Oklahoma upcoming legislative session, we will see a lot of bills filed on this issue.
Trav, are we done?
It's extremely interesting that you have Republicans who claim to want freedom, to want or love liberty, but yet they deny individuals freedom and liberty when it contradicts their ideological beliefs. The reality is they didn't criticize the Supreme Court when they were debating the Affordable Health Care Act. They didn't criticize anyone when they were trying to take away, and when they did take away, the right of local governments, municipalities, and counties to increase the minimum wage for workers. Whether or not they're going to fund another wasteful lawsuit, that's up to the governor and Pruitt.
All right. Now, there's a unique situation in southeast Oklahoma. Sitting Senator Josh Burkeen has been disendorsed, or the Democrat's been endorsed against the sitting Republican, Josh Burkeen. You've got the Independent Petroleum folks, the State Chamber of Commerce. You've got Mr. Hill, who's your nominee down there. You've got Mr. Coburn. Even Mike McCarville has come to the aid of Senator Burkeen, the pro tem with Senator Burkeen. The R's have this food fight going on internally. Is the Democrat, you going to pick up a seat down there?
Well, I mean, we're going to try. The reality is that the Chamber of Commerce is going to have to start supporting moderate Democrats who believe in creating an economy that works for everybody, but also supports legislation that's good for small business. Joe Hill is that candidate. You're going to see some other interesting races as well. It is extremely fascinating to watch the Chamber of Commerce actually stand up and say, you know, we need candidates who are going to support creating a good economic environment. You know, David Dang is going to be in the other situation as well.
Very interesting. You have, this is the big tent food fight, right?
Right.
You're watching this from a ways off. Is this the future of Republican politics? The majorities are so big, you have a lot more dissension internally.
I agree. And anytime you have a large majority, that's what happens. You see more fracturing. It happened with the Democratic Party for years when they were in control of the state. But basically what this is in southeast Oklahoma, this is a seat that's been held by the Democrats forever until Josh Burkeen got in 4 years ago. Some of the votes he made last session against the energy industry prompted the state chamber and the Oklahoma Independent Petroleum Association to endorse the Democratic opponent this week. That caused a firestorm at the Capitol. I think this will be the most hotly contested Senate race of any of the legislative races this fall. This will be exciting.
Senator Coburn got involved this week. It's interesting thing is Senator Burkeen used to work for Senator Coburn. Now, this topic right here, I'm not sure I can explain it. We have Mrs. Hoffmeister, Dr. Cox, but part of this still out there is the specter of Mrs. Barisi, Dr. Barisi, and her term. You've also got the party chairs going at each other this week. This is a very complicated issue, but it's also a very hot race. Bill Shepard says it's tied. Where are we headed campaign-wise, Hoffmeister, Cox?
It's still the tightest statewide race. Something interesting happened this week. The GOP chairman, Dave Weston, did go back and research in the Peg School District, where John Cox is school superintendent for a K-8 district, that there had been open records violations, that he did not take seriously transparency in open records, opened a little bit of a skeleton in John Cox's closet. All right,
and so in following up on that, the Democrats to say Mr. Cox is breaking the law. That gives the Democrats, your chairman, to say, well, he agrees with transparency that allows him to go after the governor as well as Mrs. Hoffmeister, saying there's a criminal probe. This thing is really getting bitter fast.
Well, I mean, here again, Dave Weston and the Republicans and Mary Fallin are proving they're hypocrites. The fact is, if you support freedom of government, if you support transparent government, you have to join with the Democratic Party and Mr. Weston and ask yourself why Mary Fallin has refused to respond to open records requests in April and August as it relates to how she spent money. You can go down and talk to the county clerk, and she'll tell you that John Cox was in compliance of all of the laws and the regulations, based on the reports and information we've got.
We're going to have a press release war probably all the way to the end.
No doubt.
All right. Is this going to be 1-2%? Is this going to be a nail biter all the way to?
This is going to come down to the wire.
As
those are the two hottest races in the state. That's the hottest legislative race. That's the hottest statewide race.
I don't know that I concur with that 100%. I think that there are some other close races that maybe the Republicans don't want to admit to themselves, such as the gubernatorial race and
still a 14% lead for Governor Fallin.
No, you're wrong.
I know we're going to disagree with that one. Y'all are going to disagree with that all the way to the end. All right, real quickly, Sooner Care, which is the Oklahoma Medicaid program, is talking we need north of $160 million this year. Talk about needing $250 million to do just to stay pat. Here's the question, the big question in the governor's race as well. Should the governor take the Medicaid expansion?
There is no doubt that Mary Fallin should have taken the Medicaid expansion. She could have insured 180,000 people. Majority of those are students, not to mention the fact she cost 13,000 jobs in the state of Oklahoma. The money that would be used to expand Medicaid is now going to other states. And look, here we are. Sooner Care is now in trouble. They're going to the legislature to have to ask for more money. It's bad governing and a bad decision by Mary Fallin.
And Representative, you have last word.
That is totally erroneous. You do not take federal dollars for a short-term fix of a large problem. Yes, government would have filled that, the federal government, for a year or two. Then, with all of the new people enrolled, we would be required to fill that. That in a balanced budget state, that is totally unaffordable. That means money being sucked out of transportation, public safety, education. 100% true. The governor made the right decision. No Medicaid expansion.
That is not true.
We're not going to get it fixed today. We'll be right back.